Lionel Messi is considered by many people alive today to be the greatest football player who has ever lived. But behind the trophies, the highlight reels, and the records, there is a story most fans have never actually heard. A story that involves a napkin, a famous singer, a doctor's diagnosis, and a $900 bet that quietly changed the sport forever. Today we are counting down 5 facts about Lionel Messi that sound almost too strange to be true. Stay until the end for number 1. Because it might be the single reason Lionel Messi exists the way we know him at all. Number 5. His name was never supposed to mean anything special. Lionel Andres Messi was not named after a footballer, a relative, or a family tradition. He was named after the American singer Lionel Richie. At the time Messi was born, his mother was a huge fan of the singer, and she loved the name enough to give it to her newborn son in a small city in Argentina called Rosario. Nobody in that hospital room could have imagined that decades later, the two Lionels would actually meet in person, shake hands, and pose for photos together, one of them world famous for his voice, the other about to become world famous for his feet. Number 4. His entire professional career technically began on a napkin. In the year 2000, a 13-year-old Messi flew across the Atlantic Ocean for a trial with FC Barcelona. The youth coaches who watched him play were stunned. This kid was small, quiet, and completely unstoppable with the ball. But the club's executives hesitated. Relocating an entire family from Argentina to Spain was expensive, and nobody wanted to commit real money to a 13-year-old they had only just met. Barcelona's sporting director at the time, a man named Carles Rexach, was terrified of losing him to a rival club while the paperwork dragged on. So during a meeting at a tennis club, with no contract in sight, he grabbed the nearest paper napkin and wrote the terms of the deal right there on the spot. That napkin, scribbled in a hurry so nobody could walk away, is now treated as one of the most important documents in football history. It is essentially the founding contract of the greatest career the sport has ever produced. Number 3. His international debut lasted exactly 47 seconds. You would assume the greatest player of his generation started his national team career with a spectacular goal. Instead, in August 2005, Messi came off the bench for Argentina against Hungary. Less than a minute later, an opposing defender grabbed a fistful of his shirt. Messi swung his arm to break free, accidentally caught the defender in the chest, and the referee pulled out a straight red card. 47 seconds. That is the entire length of Lionel Messi's international debut, and it ended with a 19-year-old kid walking straight to the locker room in tears, without ever touching the ball in a real match for his country. It would take years before fans could even joke about it, because at the time, it looked like a disaster, not the opening chapter of a legend. Number 2. He holds a scoring record that genuinely sounds made up. In 2012, Messi did something nobody in the history of the sport had ever managed. He scored 91 goals in a single calendar year, combining every club and international competition. That broke a record that had stood since 1972, held by the German striker Gerd Müller for exactly 40 years. Do the math, and that is roughly 1 goal every 4 days, for 12 straight months, without a real off-season. On top of that, Messi is still the only player in history to win the World Cup's Golden Ball award, given to the tournament's single best player, not once, but twice, in 2014 and again in 2022. The year he finally lifted the trophy itself after nearly 2 decades of trying. And now, number 1. The fact that quietly explains everything else on this list. When Messi was just 10 years old, doctors in Argentina diagnosed him with a growth hormone deficiency. His body was not producing enough of the hormone required for normal growth. At 10 years old, he stood barely 4 feet 2 inches tall, noticeably smaller than every other kid on his youth team. Without treatment, doctors estimated he would likely stop growing around 4 feet 7 inches, far too short to ever compete as a professional footballer at the highest level. Treatment did exist. Nightly hormone injections, for years, directly into his leg. But it cost roughly $900 every single month, and his family in Rosario simply could not afford it. For a while, it genuinely looked like Lionel Messi's career might end before it ever truly began, not because he lacked the talent, but because of a monthly medical bill his parents could not pay. Then Barcelona scouted him, and when their coaches saw what a small, skinny kid could do with a ball at his feet, They made a decision that would quietly reshape football forever. As part of the same deal scribbled on that napkin, the club agreed to cover his medical treatment themselves. Barcelona was essentially betting $900 a month on a 10-year-old boy that almost nobody outside a small circle of scouts had ever heard of. If that bet had gone the other way, if the club had said no or hesitated a little too long, the player many of us consider the greatest of all time might have simply stopped growing, both literally and inside the sport, long before the rest of the world ever got the chance to watch him play. And here is the part almost nobody remembers. In June 2016, after Argentina lost the Copa America final on penalties and Messi himself missed his shot, he walked away from the microphones and announced that he was done. Finished. Retiring from the national team for good, live on camera, in front of millions of people. For 7 straight weeks, the greatest player on the planet was not part of the Argentina squad at all. He had already won everything there was to win at club level, and it looked like the international story was simply going to end in heartbreak. Then, quietly, he reversed the decision. He came back, and 6 years later, in Qatar, that same player finally lifted the World Cup, the one trophy that had escaped him his entire career, completing a story that very nearly stopped in its tracks on a football pitch in New Jersey. So the next time you watch Messi lift a trophy, remember that it almost never happened. Not because of his talent, because of a hormone deficiency, a family that could not afford the cure, and a $900 bet from a football club that paid off in a way absolutely nobody could have predicted. Let us quickly run through everything one more time. A boy named after a pop singer, a career built on a napkin, a red card 47 seconds into his international debut, a scoring record that broke a mark nobody had touched in 40 years. And underneath all of it, a $900 bet on a 10-year-old who almost never grew tall enough to become who he became. 5 facts, one incredibly unlikely story. Which of these 5 facts surprised you the most? Was it the napkin, the red card, the record, or the diagnosis that changed everything? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more stories like this one every single week.